Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. And thank you for this opportunity to speak on this extremely significant topic, addressing the importance of shared human values. I want to acknowledge the visionary leadership of the China Association of Social Sciences for choosing to focus on this topic and engaging this think tank in addressing the leadership and strategies that are needed to shape a global future where humanity in all parts of the world will be recognized and included. I want to make an apology to the interpreter. I am deviating from the written script because some of the things that I've said don't need to be repeated again, and some have not been said that I think should. So I recognize your skill and the difficulty this may create and appreciate your being able to accommodate this. Perhaps we may start with what is shared human values. I don't think we can assume that we know that. This is a bold and daring step, and I look forward to hearing innovative ideas and strategies that will be offered up for consideration and discussion as we move through the three phases of this International Forum on Democracy, the shared human values, in the days ahead. This critical and timely topic provides a necessary focus for this high-level international forum to address. There are many global issues. We're reaching our third year of the COVID pandemic, an ever-urgent concern about sustainability issues regarding environmental changes, the disparity of well-being throughout the world, the rise and fall of governments, and the migration and displacement of people, the need for education, and the accessibility of technology worldwide. It is apparent that these global issues cannot be solved singularly. The impact of each issue overlaps one another, and the solution of one may negatively influence others. As different as they are in size and topic, they are intricately entwined. This requires that leaders have a worldview of the whole rather than be singularly focused. Never before have we had such demands on leadership to go beyond their geographic boundaries and to think as global citizens about the impact these issues will have on humanity around the world. Isolation is not an option. These issues, as uniquely different as they are, each impacts human life around the world. Shared human values are fundamental to the choices to be made. This is an enormous responsibility and a magnanimous privilege to engage with think tank members on these issues. I firmly believe this is an opportune time, and we are up to this task to go ahead and explore and discover how we can achieve the outcomes we seek. I believe it is achievable through this opportunity given to us by the leadership of the China Association for Social Sciences to build unity as we address global issues with shared human values. My particular inquiry is in the issue of women's equality and the importance of women's voice and leadership at decision-making tables. I'm not sure that the shared human values have included women's voices. Women's voices have not been sought or included in equal proportion to men in many places, and particularly at government and CEO levels. Women's voice represents 49% of the 7.9 billion people on the planet, and we're underrepresented. Women, according to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, have less education and less access to education, fewer resources, both financially and physical commodities, lower paid jobs, less health care, and greater responsibilities for the home, for children, and family members. Although positive changes have occurred in recent years, women remain at the bottom in terms of education, health, wealth, and opportunities to engage in decision-making and leadership. In addition, women are most often the victims of domestic violence, 1 in 3 women worldwide, and of human trafficking. The United Nations Office of Drugs and Crimes report that 71% of those who are victims of human trafficking are women and girls, and of that, 1/3 of those who are victims of human trafficking are children. Do we know their shared human rights? Male children are trafficked for labor, women for marriage and sex. Women's voices and women in decision-making roles would certainly speak out on these issues because their human values strongly support inclusion and equality. To achieve shared human values, it's essential that we know that we can see what the outcomes can be and that we can achieve them, that we step forward and initiate an inquiry that includes voices of women. Let's construct a plan of action to engage ourselves in fulfilling on a vision of shared values for mankind. Right now, from this starting point, let's examine what's available and the accessible steps that we can take to start this process. I want to suggest that we consider 3 actions under the topic of inquiry that can lead us to better understanding and greater access to justice and equality and to a world that works for everyone. 1 planet, 1 world, a truly global community of global citizens committed to shared human values. The first step is to listen. It is essential to find out what our global neighbors have to say and what they need and want in order to achieve a life of workability, contribution, and inclusion. That's democracy: workability, contribution, and inclusion. We must listen to what we do not know. Listening to what they have already achieved will demonstrate the effort they've already taken and allow us to understand and align with their goals. We must listen for the opportunities and possibilities we see, not listen in order to give them advice or alternative suggestions. We must listen with respect and acceptance that their experience and knowledge fully qualifies them to speak their truths and their aspirations for the lives of their country's citizens, their friends, and families. We must be open to hear their voices without perceived notions of what we think they want and need. We must hear from those who have never been empowered to speak and from those who have never engaged in their contributions. We must accept that they are equals in their contributions, and together our efforts will fully represent worldviews. The second action is to embrace diversity. I'm happy to see that in this session. Our planet is large and complex with a multitude of geographic, socioeconomic, educational, and governmental differences that are embedded in the origin and history of the residents. The outcome of a shared vision is not to create a common future for all people. It's rather to share a future that is inclusive of others, created from ideas and thoughts that are generated from their expression of their values and beliefs. We must consider not only cultural diversity, but gender, age, ethnicity, sexual orientation, religion, disabilities, and race. As we examine and understand the desires of others, we will expand our personal and geographic boundaries and widen our capacity to celebrate and accept the many approaches and applications to achieving a peaceful and successful life for all mankind. The third action is collaboration. It is imperative that we learn to work together as global citizens to fulfill the values we want for ourselves, our families, and our communities, as well as support others to fulfill what they want for themselves, their families, and communities. A shared value is not one that is given by another. It is one that is mutually understood and promoted by others. It is not necessary to adapt their values, but it is necessary to accept that people have different points of view, different ways of being and belonging. While it may not be the same as our point of view, it is a global world of diversity. All ideas and practices have value so long as they do not harm and damage another. It is not our intent to make things the same. It is our intent to understand that many ways that cultures, countries, and peoples choose is a way that they manage their lives. Technology and travel connects us in ways we've not imagined in recent decades. We're learning more, seeing more about how others live around the world and how they manage their lives and their work and their communities and their policies and practices and their engagement, their leisure and their lifetimes. This expanded awareness shows us how very much we are alike, as well as how we're different from one another. We differ not only because of climate, economics, education, health, religion, and government. We differ because of choices and decisions we make on how we live. These individual choices, if choice has even been available for some people, reflect the values and the principles and the future desires of these people. Technology and travel will exceedingly increase our awareness of our global neighbors, but it will require education and understanding of why and how the choices they make are important to their way of being and their way of life. We must learn to collaborate and cooperate in openness, to understand with a willingness to accept and realize that freedom of choice is critically important to a meaningful life. Freedom of choice is critically important to living a meaningful life. These three actions must be taken with respect, with the principles of democracy, with respect and recognition of the individuality of each person, with regard for their opinion and their right to be heard and represented. The uniqueness of each human being, as well as the common humanity of each, is important to the democratic principles of promoting shared human values. This dignity and the respect for one another is what democracy represents. Not uniformity, but individuality, appreciating and acknowledging the value and contribution of others. The shared human values are inclusive of all others and their voices, individually and collectively, in the creation and implementation of this democracy, the shared human values. This process will best guarantee that there is equality in the world, not given by government, but given by birth as a human being. This empowering recognition that everyone counts, everyone matters, and everyone contributes to the whole is the unifying force that will bring our world together for peace, for prosperity, for promise, and possibility for all. Thank you for your participation in this think tank and for including me in this discussion, and for the leadership of the China Association for Social Sciences for convening this international forum and opening this conversation for a world that works for everyone. Thank you.